Good afternoon. My name is Roberto Cesar. Welcome everybody to this invited talk of SIBGRAPI. For us, it's really a great pleasure, a great honor to have you all present here, and particularly with this so important invited talk by a dear friend of so many people here in the community, vision community, image processing community, here in Brazil, Professor Olga Bellon. So for us, it's really a special pleasure to invite Olga for this talk. Professor Olga has contributed a lot for the computer vision and image processing community development in the country. And therefore, it's a special honor to have her presenting this invited talk to close SIBGRAPI 2021. A conference that has been different in so many ways. Unfortunately, this is a different year. And of course, it already has been mentioned, we hope to meet everybody in person next year. So Professor Olga Bellon received her BS degree in electrical engineering from the Federal University of Espírito Santo, and then her master's and PhD degrees from the University of Campinas, also on electrical engineering. She founded the Imago Research Group at the Federal University of Paraná, where she's a full professor in 1995. And as part of her research activities, she spent sabbatical years working at the Ohio State University and the University of Southern California. She was chair of the SIBGRAPI in 2009. She's a member of the IEEE Computer Science Society, the International Association of Pattern Recognition, and the Brazilian Computer Society and the Brazilian Health Informatics Society. Her main research interests are in RAND imaging, computer vision and graphics, pattern recognition, biometrics, digital preservation of natural and cultural objects, and virtual museums. So now we are going to see her talk. As in the other invited talks, we are going to broadcast the talk that is already in YouTube, and then we'll be back within half an hour to have a questions and answer session. Olga, thank you very much in the name of everybody that organized the conference for your presence, your contribution for SIBGRAPI this year. So let's see her talk, and then we'll come back here within half an hour to start talking to her about some additional topics.
Good afternoon. My name is Olga Bellon from Universidade Federal do Paraná. Today, I'm going to say a few things about face recognition in the wild, where in the wild means under unconstrained scenarios. These are the main topics I'm going to address. First, I'll pay my respect to the founders of face recognition research. Since everything started with 2D images, I'll show where 30 years of research on face recognition were digested and the major open problems pointed by the study. Then I'll move it to the following landmark. There is the Face Recognition Grand Challenge benchmark, which is data set includes scans and high-resolution still images. After that, another landmark is the production of the multiplied database, which allows so many people to test face recognition algorithms. Finally, I'm going to take you to a walk in the wild side where the Janus benchmark basically made a revolution on face recognition goals. I'll start talking about 50 years ago at the Bellon labs, where one of the very first works on face recognition was produced, then published at proceedings of IEEE. The goal was to find that if faces could be identified by humans and computers using facial features. The database was composed by only young and middle-aged white males, no beard, no eyeglasses. 3 images were taken for each person, one frontal, one profile, and the other something in between them. They initially considered 35 features, then this number dropped to 22, and at the end, they realized that only 14 features really matter. This paper is important because it can be considered the foundation for face recognition studies. Just for your information, these are the 22 features considered by Goldenstein and colleagues. Look, they have used some soft biometrics like hair and eyebrows. Few years later, Professor Takeo Kanade finished his thesis at Kyoto University. It was the first effort to automate face recognition. So, he's the true father of this research. He had a small database, only 20 young people, no accessories, and he only took 2 frontal images of each person. Here I put a copy of the original text from Kanade's thesis about his conclusion. Basically, he said that extracting facial features would allow face identification of people by computers almost as reliable as a person. Well, Kanade's finding started a boom of works on face recognition. Then, in 2003, Zhao and colleagues published a seminal paper digesting all the work done on 2D face recognition in 30 years. Here, I emphasize some remarks from this work. Basically, they said that for real applications, problems related to changes in illumination and pose remain unsolved. Regarding videos, the small size and low quality of images increase the difficulty for face recognition. They also suggest that 3D information can help in solving geometric changes. At the end, they stress that evaluation and benchmarking is crucial to evolve face recognition algorithms. Talking about benchmarks, in my opinion, one that really shakes the face recognition community was the Face Recognition Grand Challenge. The dataset was big by that time and included 50,000 3D scans and high-resolution 2D images, both under controlled and uncontrolled scenarios. The organizer of the benchmark made a bunch of considerations in this paper, but I selected the one that says solutions to the face recognition applications would require 3D face scans or multiple facial images or high-resolution images. I would say that still they're not too far from the current reality. Professor Kanade is also responsible for the largely used MultiPy database. The goal was to provide an appropriate database with lots of controlled variations in order to evolve face recognition studies. The database is still very useful for testing algorithms and comparison, especially for pose estimation. And now, at last, I invite you to take a walk on the wild side of face recognition. This is a composition of many pictures included in the Janus Project database. Although there are many people, all Brazilians, I'll bet everybody's looking to Gisele. Now that I said that, you're probably taking a short look to the other pictures before your eyes come back to Gisele. I have to say it's normal, happens to everybody. She's wonderful. Well, this composition is an example of what I saw in January 2015 when I was attending my first meeting at USC as part of my sabbatical year. I was about to start working on a team aiming to develop a closed solution for face recognition in the wild. And the presenter was showing many pictures of people from Brazil, and that made me curious. They were showing pictures from our former president as example of what is still difficult to accomplish in face recognition, as you can see. So this picture was taken from this paper. The description of the database sounds like a nightmare. I was the most, was the most unconstrained database ever released. There were images and videos from different sensors in places with full pose variations. It also supposed to have a large geographic distribution, but now we know that it was not enough. We'll go back to this issue at the end of the presentation. What I can say is that Janus database was a turning point for unconstrained face recognition. The main motivation for the Janus project was, of course, security. This paper summarized Professor Anil Jain's effort to help in finding people from a huge collection of images. For instance, the responsible for the Boston Marathon bombing. I believe this was a moment that they realized that there was a lot to be done on face recognition, considering unconstrained scenarios and large database. This was probably a fact to consider for creating the Janus project. The thing was, in this context, I realized that my major contribution so far was always on 3D face recognition, no major work on 2D, nor in the wild. So for me, it was a real challenge, and I thought, what should I do to solve unconstrained 2D and video face recognition? The first decision was to follow the lead of Professor Gerard Medion. The idea was to perform an aggressive literature review and to use all good stuff that was already available as foundation to our new algorithm, because time matters. The problems to be solved were divided by teams. My participation was set on 3D from 2D, pose estimation, and a bit of facial expressions. I was especially interested in what I call the curse of landmark for solving pose estimation. There was a nice student from South Korea, Kim Jong-kim, who was in charge of pose estimation from landmark. He was doing a great job, but the landmarks detection were really giving him a hard time. So I decided to focus on doing pose estimation without landmarks, maybe using the nose information also. So what I'm going to say from now on is what I did since 2015 on face recognition in the wild. Also, I'll show some seminal works and state-of-the-art papers on this subject. This is an example of a traditional face processing system with possible workflows. After the image acquisition comes the pre-processing and face detection steps. Then there are many possible workflows until the ultimate goal, face recognition. In this talk, I'll discuss a bit of face detection, alignment, head pose estimation, and facial expression. These were the subjects I did some research in the past 5 years. Here we show some hot papers on face detection. Starting by Viola and John's paper, who made face detection looks really easy, but only for constrained scenarios. There are many more very good papers on face detection, but these are the ones we study more while developing our own solution. This is supposed to be the biggest self ever made. You can see from the amazing work of Hu and Hamanan how is the state of the art on face detection. Here we can see the evolution from Viola and John's seminal work in 2001 until Hu and Hamanan's work in 2017. The yellow numbers show the faces detected. We played a bit with one of the state-of-the-art approaches for object detection, the YOLO, and adapted for face detection. We were able to obtain competitive results on challenging problems, which was our goal. We also made some improvement to achieve scale invariance in finding teeny faces. The other issue that matters on face recognition is image quality. Why estimate the face image quality? There are a variety of reasons, but mostly to obtain a confidence measure for face recognition and predict its performance. These are some hot papers on face quality estimation. Many papers have emerged in the last 10 years about this subject. The ultimate findings were obtained by Besson, Rode, and Jane. At Imago, we used the suggestions of Abaza et al., but introduced a facial measure in addition to the generic ones. That new measure was the head pose estimation. We did that because since we're looking for in the wild solution, large pose variation is important for face recognition. We applied our idea on face tracking and were able to achieve higher precision rates in the more challenging scenarios when tested in the 300 videos in the wild database. Our next topic is head pose estimation, and these are some hot papers on this subject, starting with the seminal survey from PAMI 2009. It's important to say that the second and the third papers are all-in-one approaches. We continue to play with the nose for head pose estimation. This is Roberto Benigni in the movie Pinocchio. In a new release, he plays Geppetto, and this movie was an inspiration for our work. Our method was tested in 4 different data sets and compared to state-of-the-art works, achieving favorable results. In this new result, we add the lips and eyes regions to the nose region for head pose and gender estimation. Still, we found that the nose is the most important part of the face when considering difficult scenarios. About face alignment, these are some hot paper I would suggest. You can see that there is a nice service on CVIU for in the wild alignment. We also explore our nose-based head pose estimation approach in a landmark-free method we developed for 3D alignment. This work was part of a ICCV challenge on 3D face alignment in the wild. Our work achieved competitive risk score. I believe Alicia Martinez from Ohio State won the competition. Since only the nose is used, our method can be applied to estimate initial landmarks that could be refined later. Well, about facial expressions, these are 2 seminal papers that I like to show. The first one is the well-known facial action coding system from Paul Ekman. The second one is a very original work from Alicia Martinez in where he establishes a new look to the action units. Now, instead of the 6 basic expressions, we have 21 compound expressions. Here in this picture, we can see 2 of these compound expressions. happily surprised, and sadly surprised. Following that, we have a list of hot paper on facial expressions, including in the wild approaches. This is a wide field of research and very complex. We have three pieces of works on facial expressions in the last 2 years. The first one is a unified CNN to do action units detection and intensity estimation at the same time for face images under extreme poses. The novelty of the approach is learning the action units and their intensities at the same time. The second work is about multi-label detection applied to multi-pose facial images. At the end, our results show improvement on the state of the art. We have an application to analyze and summarize information about drivers' stress based on their behavior. We collected a database with videos, heart rate, and geographic location of driving activities. This work is to support psychologists in helping stressed drivers. At this point, one can ask, what about face recognition in the wild? In fact, everything I have talked so far is related to face recognition. If you want to know more, pay attention to the next slide. As you all know, deep learning is guiding our current method for face recognition in the wild, as well as other computer vision problems. Anyway, these are some hot papers to know. Note that the third one is a tutorial presented at SIBGRAPI 2017. Below that, you can see a paper with same name that was submitted to Neurocomputing in 2018, not published yet. I want to say that these two papers together already have more than 275 citations on Google Scholar. The bottom paper are a brand new survey that should be very useful too. Finally, I'd like to address one of the main questions raised by the last report from NIST. This report is about evaluating effects on race, age, and sex on face recognition software. Based on the NIST findings, the media has announced that all face recognition software are racist. This is an implication mostly due to the use of unbalanced database. As final remarks, I'd like to emphasize that all I said is only a drop in an ocean of research. Facial recognition had a strong evolution in the past 20 years, especially after the advent of deep learning. I believe we now must focus on how to correct or mitigate the imbalanced database problem. GAN is also a subject to be studied. If we want to recognize a face, first we need to know if it is a true face. I'd like to thank the organizer for inviting me to give this talk. Also, I'd like to thank my main sponsors in Brazil, CAPES and CNPq. And thank you all for the audience.
Hello, I suppose you can listen to me after this talk, and we can now go for a session of questions and answers. I'm going to open here. As you know, you can pose questions. You can put your questions in both Huva and also here at YouTube. I'm going to start a question while people are thinking about Olga, so first of all, thanks a lot for the wonderful talk. It's very interesting, and of course, I suppose many people will be interested even in in seeing again the talk, because you make this wonderful walk through the history of this very competitive research field. So this would be my first remark. And I'm particularly interested in one aspect that you mentioned at the end of the talk. While you spoke about the unbalanced data sets. So my question regards what your thoughts about unbalanced data sets and the impact of the state of the art nowadays regarding different communities. So, say for instance, of course, there are lots of data sets available and even trained networks that are available. You can simply download the weights of the network and then apply in your research, etc. But probably this is biased towards, for instance, where this research is carried out. And in general, it's carried out much more concentrated in the US, Canada, Europe, China, Japan, etc. So my talk is, do you think, how are the difficulties of using this kind of technology to apply elsewhere? Suppose that I am someone willing to create a company here in Brazil, and I'm going to use face recognition as a technology for my company. How this kind of imbalance can affect my company and how to solve it?
Good questions. That's what everybody wants to know. The thing is, here in Brazil, we are better organized about that, because you can look like a Japanese and you're a Brazilian, so you can look like pretty much everything being a Brazilian. So when you look to your students, you can see a lot of different people. But solving this unbalancing problem, it is really very difficult. So there are two possible ways. One is to create a balanced database, but it's not easy. It is not easy to do, and it's very time consuming, and there is ethical questions, and so GAN can be used, for instance, to create virtual people and trying to correct this unbalance, in my opinion. I've been doing that with images from AVC, so from strokes.
Okay.
And I've been doing that and creating new images that could look and could be like real images. But I believe this is a way to go to try to mitigate this problem. But it's still, the report is very new, so people look into this problem. Many smart people is looking into this problem. Maybe while we're talking, someone already solved the problem. I don't know.
Thanks a lot. I have another question here. So the question is, do you know any work where people studied differences between a post and a spontaneous data sets in terms of data generalization, for instance?
Yes, I did work on facial expression using 3D images. Then I compare using spontaneous and non-spontaneous forced, they call forced expressions. And so it is very difficult, very, very different, because posed expression are completely different from spontaneous. So spontaneous data sets, there are available now. I think one is 4D something from people from England, and it's a very nice data set. And in fact, it's very different, very much more difficult to identify.
Thank you very much. There's another question here. So the person is interested in multimodal situations. So are you aware of any research or research direction relevant regarding the integration, for instance, of face recognition and speech recognition, or pose recognition, or behavior recognition? In the sense, I suppose, that we human beings, we are good at integrating different things. We are seeing faces, but we are seeing people moving, and bodies, and people speaking, etc. What do you think about this kind of integration? Are we far from this?
No. Why not? And there is a specific work that I like very much from Maurice. I believe he's in Carnegie Mellon now, together with Takeo Kanedi. And it's about using facial expressions and the voice, and combining these two information to identify if the person is at risk of depression, suicide thoughts. And it's very, very interesting work. And many others are doing so. So I've been considering working a little bit with voice because of that. So voice, there is a lot of information regarding behavior in the voice. So the problem is that the voice, it changes if you have a problem in your throat or in other, it depends on the environment. So it is not easy, but it is a strong information to use.
Okay, thanks a lot. I am not seeing any other questions. Let me take a look at YouTube here at this moment. So there are lots of hello. Everybody's in your talk, but not questions. Let me see it, Huva. Okay. Anyway, no, I'm not seeing any questions. Anyway, we are now moving towards the end of the session that we have, the time that we have scheduled, because we'll have the closing session of the conference in a few minutes. And I invite everybody to watch it. It's when the best papers of the conference will be announced. And I would like then especially thank you a lot, Olga.
Thank you.
Because of the talk, but also on the personal side, because you are really a good friend for so many years. So for us, it's really a pleasure that you accepted presenting to the conference this wonderful talk. And in my name, in the name of the chairs, the organizers, everybody that worked in the conference, thanks a lot for your participation. And with that, we can conclude this session and move towards the next session. I don't know, Olga, if you want to speak any final words?
Yes, I was at the ending of SIBGRAPI in 1990 at Gramado. So my talk was the last one. So 30 years later, I'm here. So I'm very happy to be here, to be invited to this talk, and thank you very much for that.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. So organizers, I guess we're done here and we can move to the closing session. Olga, muito obrigado. Super bom te ver.
Bom te ver também.